From now to the end of the month, pay 0 down and nothing till January next year. Like new Jeep from $14,990. That's good price.
Deep Rock Galactic's Overclocks. Many of us in this community knows what overclocks are. You know, you got your fat boys, your spitting deaths, your special powders, your neurotoxin payloads, you know, the list goes on. As I've mentioned in my previous video, Deep Rock Galactic by the Beard, what a good game, overclocks can have a major role in changing a weapon's base function and how it works, and it allows you to customize said weapons to great effect. A good example of this is with the Hurricane guided rocket system for Gunner, with 2 overclocks in particular, Jet Fuel Homebrew for better single target damage, and Minelayer System for better crowd clear. This and many other weapons and their overclocks just show how you can change a weapon's preferred target pool, and I just wanted to make this video to go over my personal favorite overclocks that I find fun and practical, to each their own, and you know, who knows, maybe you would find these overclocks great and give them a try at the end of this video. So without further ado, let's get the rocks and stones rolling. Special powder, my beloved. This was one of 3 overclocks I wanted to get when I really started getting into this game. You know, this, EFS, and fire bolts. Special powder is a very simple overclock, and it doesn't take much explaining. Once you're up in the air, either from a jump or from a grapple, and if you shoot the boomstick in a direction, you'll propel in the opposite direction. So if you were to shoot down, you would go up, up, you would go down, etc. One of the reasons why I like special powder so much is because I'm familiar with this type of weapon. For those who may not know, I play Team Fortress 2. It's a very fun game. It's a team-based shooter. Many people know it. There's a weapon in that game that reminds me a lot of Special Powder, and it's called the Force of Nature. The Force of Nature acts in a very similar way to Special Powder. If you're in midair, if you shoot, you will be propelled in the opposite direction. So if you were to be in midair and shoot downwards, you would propel yourself upwards. If you were to shoot up, you would propel yourself downwards, etc. The key differences between the Force of Nature and the Special Powder overclock in Deep Rock is that in Deep Rock, both shots from the boomstick will propel you in the opposite direction, unlike in TF2 where only one will propel you, and also how far you go. You propel yourself way further in Deep Rock than you would with the Force of Nature in TF2, and you really only use the Force of Nature as like a third jump because the scout in that game can double jump. But in Deep Rock, it's so much fun and it's so practical and it's better in my opinion. A bunch of bugs in your way, you need to get out quickly. Boom, simple, just shoot in the direction and you'll be out of there. So you're telling me that your teammate's down and he died in a very tricky situation and you need to quickly revive him with your field medic perk and then just get the hell out of there right away? It's as simple as this. Just fly towards them with special powder, land on the ground, revive him with field medic, bam, done, and then just get the hell out of there. It is so much fun using special powder in a fun and practical way. You could just get out of tricky situations by just jumping out of there, and even just practicing what I like to call shotgun jumps. Yes, I'm trademarking that, copyrighting that. You can't take this away from me. Just practicing those and just flying around is so much fun. And even if a cave isn't really playing to special powder strengths, if it has like a low ceiling and it's very narrow, it's still the boomstick, which is a very good base weapon. I use this thing all the time with every scout build I have. You know, I use this, and if I wanted more damage, I can use jumbo shells. But for the most of my builds with boomstick, I use special powder. It's so fun. And if you unlock this overclock, it is 100% worth the try and just the practice using it. It's so much fun. Speaking of the 3 overclocks I really wanted, we got EFS, or Electrocuting focus shots. This overclock is very simple. At the cost of doing 25% less focus shot damage, every focus shot will apply a very powerful electrocution effect. This may seem at first very bland and unimpressive, but this is the strong electric effect. You know, there's 2 types of electrocution. The first is what I like to call the normal electrocution, which has a weak damage over time effect and an 80% slow slow. And then we have what I call it the buffed electrocution effect, which does a stronger damage over time effect while still retaining that nice slow. So with this in mind, EFS is very strong. Might not be as strong as some overclocks that the M1000 has, like active stability system, minimum clips, and hover clock, but it's still very good. If you were to take tier 1 ammo, you could still kill most of the targets that Scout wants to kill, like acid spitters, tri-jaws, etc., with one focus shot, thanks to the electrocution. So at this setup, I like to have 1-3-1-1-1, if you want to be technical. I have so many more shots that I can use. I can dish out more damage. I can also crowd clear in a pinch if I really need to. Like if a bunch of grunts are in my face and I just need to get rid of them, I could just, you know, headshot all of them. I could kill them all with blow through. It's very good. And also the slow of the electrocution effect is very helpful. You know, let's say for example a bulk is chasing you and your teammates. You're like, oh shit, I gotta slow this thing down. I gotta disable this target. You can just focus shot it and it will always have that slow, which is very, very helpful. And if you take tier 5A, you can practically cripple enemies for a few seconds, giving you and your team some safety, which can allow for easy cleanup from your team. EFS is so good. It's one of my favorite overclocks of all time. It's just so helpful. Plus it can synergize with the Zukaos, with conductive bullets, or magnetic shafts with the Bolt Shark if you really want to use that. It's a very good overclock and I recommend you try it. You like magma? Well, I got something for you. Volatile Impact Reactor is basically engineer sticky feel. And yes, I know both the sticky feel and Volatile Impact Reactor are different, I know, but they're very similar in how they're used. At the cost of a smaller AoE radius and a smaller charge capacity, which is just the Shard Diffractor's magazine capacity, any part of the beam that hits the ground will return to the magma for 7 seconds. This will slow enemies' move speed by 30% and will do 40 fire damage in heat per second while they're in contact with the magma. This is very good because basically anything that touches the magma for more than 2 seconds just gets fucking evaporated and melted before your eyes. So it's so good at crowd clear. And due to the beam having an infinite range and it being hit scan and all this other good stuff, you can practically spawn camp groups of bugs when they come out of the ground. For example, you hear mission control say, oh, we got the wave coming up soon, and then you hear the bugs coming, you're like, oh shit, where are they? And you find them, oh, I'm gonna use this thing. You just fucking shake your mouse in their general location and all the bugs die in front of you. Like it's so good. And also having access to tier 2B, you can still do pretty good single target damage against big guys if you need to. It just makes the Shard Diffractor into a really nice crowd clear option. You know, Breach Cutter still wins here due to its ability to give you immediate safety with its stun mod, but Volatile Impact Reactor is just so good. It eats up crowds, it spawn camps them, it's so good. I run this all the time with Executioner for the Lock 1 Smart Rifle, and it does wonders. You know, I got that huge single target damage from the lock, and if I need to like destroy a swarm in front of my eyes, I could just jerk my mouse around and just kill all the bugs in front of me. It's so good. We mentioned Minelayer System a while ago, and it's here for good reason. I fucking love this thing so much. It's just so good. Minelayer System is also very simple to explain. At the cost of the inability to turn your rockets in any direction and a slight ammo decrease, any of the missiles that land onto the ground will be converted into mines. They do a bunch of damage. They're really good. I love using this all the time with the Hurricane, and it's just so good. Just putting a bunch of these down, holding a position, just watching all the bugs die in front of you. It's so nice to see. And it even does good single target damage if you stack a bunch of these, even against oppressors, which have a pretty big explosive resistance. These are still decent at doing a lot of damage to them. I mean, it's very ammo inefficient to do this, but go ahead, it's your save file, I don't care. You can cover your tracks in a way. If you Bhop, you know, I have a mod that allows me to just hold space and I Bhop, but if you hold down W and space with the Bhop mod, you could still shoot the Hurricane and drop mines below you and just have a trail of death that any bug comes across will just be evaporated. It might be a little hard to get used to, especially if you're using every other Hurricane overclock, but once you get the hang of it, it is so worth it. It is so good. It's really good at clearing a bunch of bugs up. It's so worth a try. So those were some of the overclocks that I really like using, but I've saved my most favorite for last. So hang on to your seats, baby, cause this one's a screamer. Cryo Bolts. Cryo Bolt is such a helpful overclock for the Bolt Shark for Scout. It's the polar opposite, quite literally, of the Fire Bolts overclock. You know, they both have the same downsides at the cost of doing less damage and not being able to retrieve the bolts anymore. Fire Bolt will burn enemies that are around it, which is really good for crowd clear. And Cryo Bolt will freeze enemies, allowing for good stationary clear. And both these effects will stack as more bolts are near the enemy. So if you have 2 fire bolts against a group of grunts, it will set them on fire much faster. If you throw a bunch of cryo bolts on the ground where a bunch of grunts are coming after you, they will freeze really quickly. It's also helpful against flying enemies. Let's say, for example, a nanosite breeder is messing with your teammate. It's just spawning a bunch of nanosite jellies and you can't really reach it. It's kind of far away. You can shoot 4 cryo bolts at the breeder and it will freeze it completely, just getting rid of it. Or let's say a goo bomber is harassing your teammate. It's just making the terrain unbearable to cross. You can shoot 3 cryo bolts at it and it will freeze it, disabling that enemy, getting rid of it. I usually tie my usage with cryo bolts and special powder, but cryo bolts has a nice utility. It's a very good overclock and it's a nice for what Scout does. So those are all the overclocks that I really like using. I may have missed some that I like using, because if I were to do that, we would be here all fucking day. But these are some that I believe deserve to be known more. They're so helpful, they're very fun, and I hope I gave you a basic understanding and some information about these overclocks that I mentioned and pique your interest into using them if you unlock them. They're very fun and they're worth a try. So make sure you